Hey, this is Peter and welcome to another Take a Break with Valley CAD. Well, time to take a break, so get that favorite cup of coffee or tea ready, all right? Okay, so what we're gonna work through today is transitioning from a 2D drafting software to 3D. Yeah, this could be challenging for you. It can be, especially if you are that one that was tasked to, hey, we have all this 20 plus years of data that we need to transition into a new software we just got. Have fun with it, right? Well, there's actually some really easy ways to go about it, but it really depends on how you set up your file. So get your favorite cup of coffee or tea ready. I'll show you some practices that might make this a little bit easier for you. I'll see you over there in just a click. Hey there, welcome to Oh wait, this is actually DraftSight. And in case you don't know what DraftSight is a 2D drafting software that's owned by Dassault Systems, who's also the parent company to SOLIDWORKS. I personally love drawing in 2D drafting softwares. I actually was trained on board drafting, then I learned how to utilize AutoCAD LT and DraftSight and in SOLIDWORKS as well. So I still have a nostalgic love for doing 2D drawings, even though majority of the videos that you see me do are actually SOLIDWORKS videos. But anyways, I still love utilizing 2D drafting. So here we are, here's this model, let's just say, and it's very simplistic in the form of we just see one view on it, this front view, there's no other views on it, and it has a simple note saying this is 2 inches thick and it's made out of mild steel. Awesome, right? So something like this, you might be going, hey, yeah, I can model that up pretty quick, not too bad, huh? Well, this can actually be a little annoying because you're gonna have to either take a screenshot. If you got two separate screens, awesome, like that makes it a little bit easier. But having to come through and try to draw your lines and then redraw everything, especially if this is, let's say this is a part that has been made for the last 20 years at your company and it's gonna work, right? Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's been made multiple times, it fits, it functions. Why reinvent the wheel, right? And it's just because you're transitioning into a new CAD software like SOLIDWORKS. So don't come in and redraw things, because if you do, there is an aspect where you might miss a dimension or something, and you might have a bad part then. So what I like to do here is simply do this. Just do a quick window over the model or your sketch that you have there. Do a Control-C for copy. From there, simply transition over into SOLIDWORKS. From here, specify the plane that you want. So let's say like my front plane, and we'll create a new sketch on there. From here, I did click off in my graphics area. The reason for that, when you activate the sketch, notice it's still showing my front plane there. SOLIDWORKS will get a little mad at you if you simply try to paste right now, and it'll just say, hey, I can't paste here. So just click off and do a Control-V for paste. You'll see here it starts showing plane 2, and then you'll see it dropped in all my entities and also that note. Now, notice as well as I dropped this in, it also added this toolbar here for me that's called 2D to 3D. And we'll come back and we'll look at some of these icons a little bit later. So analyzing this, these sketch entities that got dropped into SOLIDWORKS. Well, first of all, it looks like it dropped in those center lines that were used on my original sketch here that we have in my model. So you'll see it's all these yellow entities here, but it did not drop in all my dimensional layer onto SOLIDWORKS. Okay, that's convenient, but it did drop in my note of 2 inches mild steel, as you see right here. So what we need to do now is come in and clean this up. Okay, so simply clicking on that 2-inch MS, push delete on there. Okay, we're good with that. I just need to remember, hey, extrude this out 2 inches. And coming through, well, I don't need these construction lines, so I'm just simply delete. Okay, I did push delete, but looks like nothing happened. Well, whenever that happens, there I push delete again and you see it went away. What that means is that, hey, there's actually lines on top of each other, or entities on top of each other. Whoa, that's actually not good for SOLIDWORKS. Because as it looks at this, it will say, okay, here's an entity and it's coming over, it's connecting to this point, but it's on top of another entity. Well, maybe just the construction lines were that way. Okay, I'll simply click on that line there, push delete. Oh no. So it looks like all my entities are actually overlapping each other. that means I'd have to come through and click on every one of these entities and delete them. Oh man. Another way we could go about this is simply do a check, and you'll see check sketch for feature. And we'll simply come in and we'll do base extrude on here. You'll notice it says, hey, you got multiple disjoint closed. Okay, let's check it out. Saying, hey, this sketch cannot be used for this feature because the endpoint's wrongly shared. Oh no, right? Well, as we look at this, SOLIDWORKS is saying, hey, you actually have a total of 63 components or entities that are on top of each other. So you have to come through and delete each of those entities. Ugh, that just doesn't work, guys. I gotta tell you right now, it just doesn't work. So this is where we gotta do a little bit of pre-cleanup before we transition into SOLIDWORKS. And by the way, if you notice here with that dimension of 2 inches from here to here, well, if this was modeled in a scale of 1:1, coming back into SOLIDWORKS here, smart dimension from here to here, just to verify, you'll see it also shows 2 inches. Pretty awesome there, by the way. All right, so we'll simply delete that. And what I'm gonna simply do is do a window and delete the entire thing. So as I was mentioning, we need to do some cleanup before we transition into SOLIDWORKS. So coming back into DraftSight. So you'll see here that I have my initial drawing. It's called tab 22, 2D to 3D, DXF file. Awesome. But let's move over to this other one called no name 0. And what I did here was I simply grabbed my initial sketch like so, or entities, and I made a new DXF file and I pasted it into this new file here. Because it had all those layers in there, all those layers also got transitioned into this new drawing file, or DXF I should say. And what I did was I came through and I turned off those given layers that I don't want to see anymore. Okay, so with that set up, now we had a problem here where layers were, or entities were on top of each other. 2D drafting software such as like AutoCAD and DraftSight, they really don't care about that. Like, it's not a hindrance for them. So let's just verify though. If I click on this line and push delete, oh yeah, you'll see here that it actually did have an entity on top of another. So inside of DraftSight, there is a really cool tool here. And if I start typing in the word discard, you'll see here that DraftSight, you're gonna hear me mix that up probably a couple times in this video. But anyways, discard duplicates. So if I click on that, DraftSight's gonna ask me to come in and specify the entities that I wanna look at to see if there's any duplicates. Simply from here, do a window like so, and push enter. From there, DraftSight's gonna come up with a secondary window. You could come in here and ignore certain properties on here, and you can also look at given options. I'm gonna keep it all as default and simply say okay to that. So from here, DraftSight came in and said, hey, I found a total of 35 duplicate entities and that were discarded. Cool. So I'm just moving my command window up and down so we could read it. So if I come in here, simply click on that line, push delete, bam. Looks like there's only one entity there. We'll try that previous one that I had. Hey, one entity. Awesome. So that's coming in and cleaning us up a little bit more. All right, so now what we'll do is utilize these sketch entities to transition into SOLIDWORKS. So we'll do a Control-C here to copy, come back into SOLIDWORKS here. Notice I'm still in my original sketch. All I did was I deleted those existing entities. And from here, simply do a Control-V to paste it. So here we are gonna let SOLIDWORKS transition all those things, and here are my new sketch entities. And just to verify here, we'll come up here and we'll do another check if we want. Say check sketch, we'll simply do base extrude, and we'll check it out. It says no problem found. The sketch contains 3 closed contours and 0 open contours. Awesome, that's pretty good, huh? Just by coming in and turning off some layers and also using that discard duplicates has helped clean up our process significantly. So the next thing to look at here is that SOLIDWORKS is a parametric modeling software, which means it needs rules. And the ways to apply rules inside of SOLIDWORKS are with dimensions and relations. So we need to specify the size of the sketch, and we also need to specify where is this thing located in relation to my origin. Well, one thing to point out here, how did SOLIDWORKS know to drop these sketch entities this far away from the origin? Well, let's go back to DraftSight again here and let's figure out what's going on. So as we go back to no name 0, you'll notice here where my entities are, and look where the UCS is here, or also known as the origin inside of DraftSight. And you'll see here that it's actually located kind of the same distance away from as it is in SOLIDWORKS. Well, that's because it is actually. So as we come in here, what we actually should do before transitioning this into SOLIDWORKS is I would locate it centered about my origin. So what I would simply do, because I had layers turned off and so forth, I'm making sure I'm on my construction layer here. I'm gonna activate line command. Now, if you're not familiar with DraftSight and so forth, you'll notice here as I move my cursor around, it is not snapping to origin like you would think it would as it does in SOLIDWORKS. But as I come over to my other entities, it looks like it is snapping nicely, and that's because I have my eSnap on. Okay, so what we need to do here is we need to actually specify this and make it so that we're located at 0, 0. Looking at my cursor here, I'm gonna do 0, 0. What that's saying is, hey, start a line and start it so my starting point is at 0 there. What I can do now is grab my entities, and I can simply copy this like so, and we'll simply grab that and we could snap it there. So copy is one way to do it. Another way that we could go about this, I did a Control Z, by the way, to undo, and just push the letter M for move. Grab the origin, take it, and drop it, just like so. And from there, I'll simply delete that construction line because it's not needed. So now we got this set up so that it's centered about my origin based off of this hole in the middle. So now let's try this again. If I come in here and do another Control C, come back into SOLIDWORKS here, let's go ahead and delete all these entities here again, and we'll simply delete again. And I'll come in here and do a Control V to paste it. You'll see here that SOLIDWORKS comes in and it drops all my entities on top of my origin. Okay, so that is done. Hey, we found out that, hey, good practice here is turn off layers. Also make sure you discard duplicates. And it's also good practice to try to center your model about your origin so that way it's located on the origin of SOLIDWORKS. So coming in here, I am still underdefined. So as I come in here and I grab that circle, notice how it's moving things around a little crazy, right? Well, I'm just gonna move it off, drag it back, and let go on top of my origin. So it's still not fully defined though, is it? So what we can do here are a couple things. One of them is simply come in here, do a window like so, and I can say fix. So the reason why I'm okay doing fix in this scenario is because this is made up of entities that are already made, they're already on the shop floor, they've already been manufactured, so we know they work and we know that they don't need to change at all, right? Because as we verified earlier, as I dimensioned it, it actually showed the true dimensions of everything. So fixing is one way to do it. I'm just gonna do a Control Z to undo that fix command, and I'm gonna grab it again. I'm gonna right click in my graphics area, and there's this tool here called Fully Defined Sketch. Fully Defined Sketch is one of those commands that I don't use very often, but this is a scenario where it is very helpful. And from here, I can simply say calculate. SOLIDWORKS will come through and it'll grab all the entities and it'll drop all the relations and dimensions on it. Yeah, that looks really crazy, right? Like that looks like a ton of stuff there. And that's because it is. So that's why sometimes it might be better to come in and simply do the fix command. So, but once again, I want to show you the two routes that you could go about that. So I'll simply come in here, do another window, and I'll simply say fix to everything. Okay, so as I was talking, we have this little new 2D to 3D function that comes up. So with that 2D to 3D, one thing that we could do here is we can actually extrude from here. So if I like grab all these entities, I can say boss base extrude from that. SOLIDWORKS will come in, it'll grab all those entities and automatically start a boss base extrude. So I know that this thing here needs to be 2 inches thick. And from there, simply say okay to that. Now I do want to point out that by me coming in and specifying that boss base extrude, what SOLIDWORKS actually does here is it will take your initial sketch and it will copy it onto the same plane and utilize that for your boss base extrude. Now, as we look at sketch number 3 here, it is underdefined. So what it's doing there, it's copying the sketch entities of your original one. It's not like it convert entities, but it copies it and makes a new sketch from it. Now, that can be a problematic thing because this thing is underdefined. But what's nice about that is that it does keep your original sketch there. So that's really convenient. Now, you actually don't need to use all these icons here. You really don't. You can actually just come in, drop in your sketch, and then from there, simply come up to Boss Base Extrude, extrude it out. Really simple. But why would something like this actually be helpful? Well, let's come back into DraftSight. As we look at DraftSight here, I actually have one more sheet here, and it shows a top view of this unit. And what this is actually showing is, hey, this thing is being cut back. So it's actually getting narrower as it goes back. And just to verify here, let's simply do a dim linear, so DLI on there. And let's verify how tall this is. Coming in, and let's make sure I'm on the right. Oh, I actually turned off my construction layer here. There we go. So this is at 1/2 inch. Okay, so we know that that's that distance there. And we'll simply do another DLI to come in from here to here. And we see that that's at 2 inches. Awesome. So we still keep our 2-inch overall thickness, but we need to cut it back as it gets closer to this side and make sure it's only 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm gonna come in and turn off that construction layer again, not a big deal. And we'll come back into SOLIDWORKS. What we're gonna simply look at now is how we can transition that geometry that was cut out on top and put it on another plane on our SOLIDWORKS model. Because yes, the sketch that I have made up is simple, but you might get something a little more complicated where there might be holes and so forth. So that's why we're gonna look at another route for this. So coming in here, what I'm gonna do is activate a new sketch on my top plane, like so. From here, what we're gonna do is come in, go back to DraftSight here. We'll take that view, do a simple Control-C to copy it, go back into SOLIDWORKS here. I'm on my top plane sketch, and I'll do a Control-V. Now, because with our original DraftSight drawing, it's dropping that top view at a distance away from my front view. Hey, that's pretty cool, right? But what we want to do is make sure that this thing lines up nicely to my original model. So this is where that 2D to 3D is actually really helpful. So what I can actually do here is there's this tool here called Align Sketch. So what this does, as you see in that tooltip there, it aligns a point or line from one sketch to another sketch. So from here, if I click on it, SOLIDWORKS will come and says, hey, you need to select one sketch point or 2 points or lines to align. Okay, so we'll come in here, we'll click on that, we'll click on this point down here, and we'll simply say Align. SOLIDWORKS will come in and it'll grab that first point and it'll click it and lock it to this point here. And we could come in, we could define this a little bit further if we need to, or if not, it's totally up to you. So as I was mentioning, we can actually utilize this sketch alone from here on out, and we could say, hey, with all these sketch entities here, I wanna just simply fix this thing again. With sketch number 4 pre-selected, I come up to features, do an extruded cut like so. And with this extruded cut, we want to come in and we want to flip it to the outside. And we'll say cut through all both. So it's cutting the outside of that profile, and simply say okay to that. So what I'm wanting to show here is that even though I utilized 2D to 3D to align it, I didn't have to utilize the cut function or convert to cut from this toolbox. Pretty cool, right? Or however you want to word that. So now as we look at my model here, I now have it to where I'm utilizing my existing sketches. I didn't have to make anything new, and it made it to where my 3D model matches how my 2D drawing was in DraftSight. Pretty cool, huh? So as I was mentioning earlier, this is a task. It's a pretty simple task. Thank you to this 2D to 3D functionality that SOLIDWORKS incorporates into a part when it recognizes that you're pasting a DXF or DraftSight sketch entities into SOLIDWORKS. So anyways, my name is Peter. Thank you for watching this video. I'm starting to get in a little bit long here. Hopefully that was a bigger cup of coffee or tea. Anyways, thank you again for watching these videos. If you are enjoying these videos, please click that thumbs up button. Also click subscribe so you can get notified for future Take a Break videos and other videos we are posting here at Valley CAD. Also, feel free to leave us comments. We love seeing those. You can also email us, as I was mentioning earlier, or you can reach out to us. We love to see new ideas for future Take a Break videos. If you have something, reach out to us. We would love to see how you're using SOLIDWORKS and if you have questions as well. Have a great rest of the day. Make sure you learned something new.